Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video, we're discussing C is for Corpse, which is the third book in the Sue Grafton and Kinsey Millhone series. I did do videos on the first two, A is for Alibi and B is for Burglar, so I hope you enjoy this video. So this plot was quite complex. Kinsey was injured at the end of book 2. So part of her rehabilitation is to do exercises at a gym. While there, she comes across another guy who's doing exercises for rehabilitation as well, Bobby Callahan. Bobby's aware that she's a PI, and he was in a car accident and he suspects that somebody ran him off the road. There's some evidence pointing to that, but nobody's ever been caught, and the investigation kind of never went anywhere. But Bobby also thinks that somebody's following him, and he's worried that they'll make another attempt on his life. So he asks Kinsey to investigate, one, to find out what happened to him with the first accident, and to try to find out who's following him, if anybody is. So as part of this investigation, Kinsey goes to meet his family. And his family, it's a bit of a basket case, his family, to be honest. So he's got a stepdad that's his mother's third husband. His mother's quite wealthy, but the stepdad looks like a bit of a gold digger and maybe only there for the money. I'm not really sure at this point. He's got a stepsister who seems to be a drug addict, but Bobby seems to really care for his stepsister. We don't know if the stepsister cares for anybody, really, but she's a bit of a basket case, and she ends up going to rehab at least once in this novel. So the family's not a great place to be for Bobby, but he stays there because he can't really look after himself fully yet. Bobby also remembers that there was a red address book, and in that address book he thinks that he wrote down something that's a clue, a significant clue for this case, but he's not sure where that address book is, if he gave it to somebody, if he lost it, if he left it somewhere. He's just not sure, so Kinsey's looking for that as well. During this investigation, Bobby ends up being in a car accident and dying, and they suspect that he had a seizure, and Kinsey thinks that it's linked to the first accident. So in her mind, it's murder. Somebody ran him off the road, didn't kill him off, but he's had a seizure since. So that seizure is linked to the injuries he sustained in the first accident. So now Kinsey wants to find out who the culprit is. Who's the person that ran him off the road? Where's that address book? What's in that address book that's the clue? So as she investigates on, she finds out that Bobby was having an affair, possibly with a married woman. And then the address book also turns up, and we find out that the person he was having an affair with was being blackmailed by somebody, and Bobby was trying to help. So that also ties into this case as well. So this is where it starts to get really complex. I won't go any further into it, because if I do, we'll give too much away. But just to say that Kinsey's now trying to find out who a blackmailer is. She's also trying to find out who killed Bobby, who ran him off the road the first time. Are they connected? The end of this novel is quite good. It's not as good as the tie-in that happened in book 2, but it's still good for a mystery novel. But let's push aside the main plot for a bit, and let's focus on the side plot, the side case that Kinsey's working on. Her landlord, Henry Pitts, the retired baker, has fallen for a lady, Lola Sims. Now, Lola's new to the neighbourhood. She's not even a resident in the neighbourhood. She's staying with somebody as a house guest. But Henry's head over heels for this lady, and Kinsey's a bit suspicious. She's worried that this lady's got a secret, got a past. She gets more suspicious because she finds out that Henry's going to front up some money for a business venture they're going into. They're going to buy a house or a business somewhere else in the US. And she's worried that Henry's being taken for a ride, so she decides to investigate Lola a bit. And part of that investigation is going to the house that Lola's staying at, which is on the same street. And what we find out is the lady who owns the house where Lola's staying doesn't know Lola, wasn't even advertising a room for rent. Lola just turned up, talked her way in, almost bullied her way in a way, and is now staying there. The fun part of this as well is that Rosie gets involved. You know, Rosie, the eccentric Hungarian who owns that dodgy restaurant. She's a bit suspicious of Lola as well. And she drags Kinsey down to the restaurant and they chat about Lola, and they also get that neighbour in and find out the truth, what's going on. I won't go further in that because I don't want to give it away what's happening with Henry, Lola and Kinsey, but it's just a great side plot, a side case, and it gives that bit of lightheartedness to this novel because the main case is a bit darker. It's a bit darker than what we had in books A and book B. And I think we needed that other element, and it also brings Henry and Rosie more to life as well in this novel. This novel is full of the great characters in this series. Kinsey. We see a really different side to Kinsey that I didn't notice before in the first 2 books. So when she first meets Bobby's seriously injured. He's got scars, he limps, he's got physical disability from that accident, and also the memory loss, and his thinking sometimes gets a bit funny and he gets a bit angry at times as well, and it's all linked to the accident. Kinsey takes all that in her stride. She takes him at face value, and she doesn't condescend to him, doesn't treat him any differently, and I really like that about the character, that she could treat everybody the same way. Doesn't matter how they walk, how they talk, how they act, what they look like, she'll treat everybody the same. And I thought that was just a great way to bring that out in Kinsey's personality and her character. Rosie. I love Rosie as a character, and the thing I really liked about Rosie this time was the way she was willing just to get involved in the case with Lola Sims and care for that neighbour who had Lola living in her house. I thought that was a really good side to Rosie as well. And what it does, it just shows that these characters are really enmeshed in each other's lives and they've got friendships. Henry. Well, this time we got to see a different side to Henry. We saw that vulnerable side. He's always seemed to be happy being a bachelor. But in this novel, we get to see that he wants something more. He wants that companionship. He wants to find somebody. And that sometimes gets him in trouble because he seems a bit naive on that front. So it's good that he's got Kinsey there to look after him, to look out for him. So I like seeing that side of Henry because it's something we didn't see in the first 2 books, and it just adds another element to his character. Lola Sims. Well, Lola was written really well. She had multiple parts of her personality, and there was a great balance in the way Sue Grafton created this character. At times she does seem suspicious, but other times she just seems normal, and it's just like, well, did we think she was suspicious? Were we wrong? We're never really sure about Lola, and that was written really well. And I thought that Sue Grafton must have taken a bit of time to create this character to get that balance. So a really good character, even though Lola Sims is only in this 1 book. The last character I'll mention is Bobby Callahan. And I think Sue Grafton did a really great job in creating this character. She did it in a way that was not patronising at all to people who have physical or mental disabilities. And I think that his character is so real, so lifelike. You really feel for him and you want the best for Bobby. And I think to give that emotion going in a reader for a character that's only with us for half a novel, that's just a sign of great writing and a great character development. As I've mentioned before, this series is my favourite PI series of all time. But we have to look at each book and its own merits. When I weigh up all the things in this book, the characters, the mystery, the ending, I give this a 4 out of 5. It's not the strongest book in the series, and it definitely wasn't as good as book 2. It still has great mystery elements, and I did love the side plot, the side case with Lola Sims and Henry. I thought that was brilliant, and I enjoyed that so much. The ending in this I didn't enjoy as much as the ending in the first 2 books. I just found it felt a little bit repetitive. Let's just throw Kinsey in the same kind of situation at the end of this book. And all the elements didn't tie in as well as book 2.